Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Corner Talks podcast. I have my good friend here, fellow actor, musician, David Akinyemi.
Yes, sir. How's it
How are
going?
you, man?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man. I love the hat, by the way. Just have to start off and say, like, the bucket hat. Like, it's a blue's my favorite color. I love the color, and yeah, you're rocking it today.
Oh, for real. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's,
No
it's
worries, man.
easily my favorite hat as well.
Yeah, we so to give you guys some background, David and I worked on our first project last summer. It was a film called Cracked, and it explores mental health, specifically in young men. And it was so exciting to have David on board. I got to learn more about his journey, his personality, and we became friends. And we plan to collaborate even on more projects, short films, and the '94 collection, my clothing line. David was kind enough to offer his modeling services and help promote the brand. So I'm really appreciative about that.
Anytime, man. Always. It's
Of
all
course.
love for the
Thanks,
work that
buddy.
you do.
Thank you, thank you. And yeah, you've been very supportive, like I said. And I just want to get back to what I was talking about, where you're an actor, and as a director, I'm always fascinated on how an actor I'm working with decided to pursue a career in that field. So, what is your story, man? Like, how did you, you know, make get this path, take this path?
Good question. I would say growing up, of course, I grew up in Nigeria. I was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria, and I moved to Canada in 2016. So this September will make it 5 years that I've been in Canada.
Nice.
And I've always loved a lot of artistic things growing up, but of course, it wasn't as appreciated coming from the background that I was. It was almost a more like conventional career paths like engineering or medicine or law. If you wanted to say you wanted to become an artist or you wanted to go to Hollywood, people would kind of take you as a joke. So I kind of had to mellow that aspiration and put it to the side for a very long period of time
Right.
until I moved to Canada, where, especially here in North America, it's a lot more appreciated. People are more
Hmm.
open minded to different
Of
kind of
course.
opportunities. And from there, I'll say the first instance I had of music was me just making music in my own dorm room in high school, kind of making beats, recording songs, and whatnot. And then right from high school as well, I was also a part of the school play, school production that we did. I'm
Oh,
not sure if
nice.
you know this thing, Dr. Faustus. Have you ever heard of that before?
No,
Dr.
I haven't.
Faustus.
What's this all about, Dr. Fausters?
It's like this guy
Is
who
it?
sells his soul to the devil, and
Oh, yeah.
it's some pretty
What?
creepy thing.
Oh, yeah. What is it, like an urban legend or like an actual story?
Yeah, it's an actual. I
True
guess it's an
story.
urban legend,
Okay.
but you're just talking about a guy who sells his soul to the devil, but he has a limited amount of. He gets everything he wants from the devil, but
Right.
I think he can only live for like 7 years or something, and do
Hmm.
whatever he wants within those 7 years. And then eventually, like the devil comes back and then comes to take him to hell. And I
That's
was like,
crazy.
why are we doing this in high school? Like,
Yeah.
but it was funny though. And of course, aside that, I tried to do more individual projects too, like
Hmm.
creating videos, even down to music videos as well. Those are things I'll say I've kind of delved into because I've always been a very strong appreciator of just cinema in general.
Right.
And I think we kind of share this mutual love for Quentin Tarantino as well.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning him.
Yeah.
I think my viewers or my audience is getting pretty tired of me talking about Quentin Tarantino, but thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, I wanted to mention when we first met on set, that was what clicked for us. Is I mentioned Tarantino, and I'm
Right.
used to hearing like, yeah, he's good, whatever. And then David was like, yo, Tarantino, man, are you kidding me? Yeah, right, like number one. And David knew he was in good hands when I said that,
Exactly.
right?
Like my mind was at ease straight away.
Yeah, he was like, this guy knows what he's doing. Let me trust him. Because it was my
Honestly.
first time on set. So, like, not as a director, I should say, like dealing with actors. And it was quite an interesting experience for sure. But sorry, continue your story, huh?
Yeah, I mean that was kind of how everything started to align.
Mm,
So I feel like the lines are very thin between different art forms when
mm,
we were talking about fashion or even cinema or films or even music. So many things are mixed into it. You can't make a movie without the music and the attire that the people wear. And
of
even when
course.
you're making music, you talk about the videos that portray and bring it to life.
Of
And you
course.
talk about the brand, just like the 94 collection. Artists or people or actors are known by their brands, how they dress and whatnot. So I just felt that why restrict myself to just one avenue where I can almost specialize in one, but still dip my feet into the other aspects of artistic expression as well. That's how I saw it. So
Yeah, and that's something like we're gonna get into as well. I'm glad you said it. Is you're kind of identifying or relating to me in the sense that you hear me. Like I do videography work, but I also do film, but I also do the clothing line and podcast, right? Like I never thought I'd be doing a podcast, and I think it's very important to kind of do anything you find passionate, anything that you find you excel in. Because it all serves a purpose to your brand, it all serves a purpose to your identity, and eventually the idea is to create an audience, to create a following that can say, okay, I don't like, you know, because I do artworks about my nostalgic characters I grew up. I don't like the nostalgic characters, right? Or the clothing line is not for me. I don't like streetwear, but I like
yeah,
his film, so I can watch that. And it's, and then you'll find, an audience that will like everything that encompasses you. So my point being is that with yourself, and we'll get into it more. I just wanted to ask you this question here, but before I get into that, with regards to music and with regards to other platforms that you've been kind of sharing on social media, it just goes back to our point about you're constantly expanding your brand, you're constantly showing people other talents that you can offer them. So I praise you for that, and I want to learn more about that. But before that, what was it about the film Cracked? Again, we discussed how it was exploring mental health and again in young men and about a man keeping his family together and the struggle with that.
yeah.
What was it about this film, man, that wanted you to be involved with it?
Mm. I would say let's kind of even split that answer into two, if I may. I
Yeah, of
would
course.
say before I found out deeply what the whole process or what the whole context was about,
Hmm.
and after I arrived on set. So, of course, beforehand, Koso was the only person that I knew who was part of the whole production team, if I was to say. And he told me about the project he was working on, that this was one of the roles available. Would I like to audition for this role? And then
Right.
I read a bit more about it. And I would say, of course, mental health in general is a topic that I always like to advocate for very strongly because I can even say I've had my own personal struggles with that as well,
Of
which I
course,
like
yeah.
to be very open and I speak about it all the time. And I feel I do that because I know there are other people who aren't as confident to speak up about it. But
Of
when they
course.
see that there's someone they can relate to, it makes
Hmm.
them feel stronger naturally. So it just works out perfectly that way. So when I saw that there was a film being made that was centered on that topic, I said, well, I have to do whatever I can do to be a part of this.
Of course.
But of course, I never kind of auditioned for an actual film before. For me, it had just been plays or like short skits that stuff would do. So I would say this was like the first proper film that I was actually a part of, and I was excited to be a part of
Oh,
that.
that's great. I'm happy
So
to be, yeah, the one to, we're the team that we were able to bring you on board and, make you feel, because again, like I mentioned, it was the first time for me too, like a first formal project that, you were
exactly,
an actor, I was a director. Yeah. So that's
yeah.
great, man.
So that was kind of the first part that really resonated with me. And
Mhm.
of course, upon arriving on set, low key, I was kind of scared because I
Right.
felt like, oh, all these people, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
That I can maybe just attest to, like, to see I've had a bit of an acting background, but like acting for film, I hadn't done that before. I don't know how to work with directors or like the
Right.
producers, all those kind of things. So I thought I was going to be like that novice, that newbie. But I liked how everyone made it such a chill environment, so
Hmm.
comfortable, like a family that everything just eased into its place.
Yeah.
And initially, I was thinking that maybe the director would be like a Hollywood director and be like, pause, pause, emotion, emotion. I come and tell you and do those kind of things, or like
Yeah. Yeah.
line, or you see people screaming line all the time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but it was just very natural. I feel like everybody just felt in the right place and in the right
Yeah.
space.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's kind of like I'm glad you mentioned like the whole director, how you saw them as coming on board and being like you said, like just yelling and line and make sure it's like this and why are you late and
yeah,
but my whole thing it's kind of what I always want to use even when I get into bigger budget films is that approachability, that comfortability, as long as everyone respects me or respects the story and the crew and the cast, there should be no issues, right? And that goes for me as well. I have to respect the people that I'm dealing with and the story itself. But when you came on board, the reason why I'm so personable and I'm like, hey, what's going on? And I start like talking to you about random stuff is I put myself in your shoes. Like I was nervous too that day. And I said to myself, this guy's coming. who knows if it's one of his first projects. But just empathizing with you and saying it's nerve wracking, to be, it's hard work enough to be behind the scenes, but imagine like being in front of the camera and capturing everything. You could slow down a whole production if you're not on your A game, or if,
Yeah.
you're just really nervous. And my whole thing is, yeah, there's obviously going to be nerves, but if we can avoid it or minimize it by being, just good people, like there's no need to be assholes. Like
Yeah.
if you come on set, right, and you're already like, you have an air about you, yeah, of course you're going to get that energy back, because we're going to say, okay, like bring it. But if you're coming on being very humble, like, hey guys, pleasure to work with you. Let me know if you need any help. And you're just a grounded guy. Like I love that about you. So I kind of use that same approach with you. And I said, we're on the same boat. We're just trying to kill it and make it happen. And I think it's important because that energy is conveyed through the lens, right? Like people watching the film, they're not going to see my energy. They're going to see it like how I shoot it or how I direct it, but they're going to see mostly your energy, right? And they're going to see if you were comfortable enough to perform on set. So I think that's very important, and I think that's something I would advise in my little experience that I have so far as a director is anyone pursuing the field or is in the field right now. I think it's always important to respect not only the story but the people that are involved. So
Yes.
that's why you had us act the way we did, man, and we're so grateful that you were on board. Kosa Caraway and Danny Mariathis, they creators, the writers of the project,
Yeah.
and they told me about you, and they were really excited to have you on board. Um,
I'm
kind of
glad.
exploring the subject matter. And I just wanted to go back to about mental health. Is that's why I do these podcasts and these vlogs as well, to discuss well-being and just an awareness about mental health, is especially during this pandemic. Like I don't know, everyone's story is different, everyone's been affected differently, and I always say it, like financially, mentally, physically, whatever
Yeah.
have you. But yeah, that's something that you wanted to, is it to that reason, like you were struggling maybe in your own way during the pandemic, and you kind of wanted to explore that, right?
Yeah, for sure. It was exactly like you put it. It was very, very, I'll say a unique roller coaster, right?
Hmm.
Why I'm saying unique, because we all individually at phases in our life go through our own roller coaster rides,
Of course.
but sometimes we can predict them, and because it's almost like a deja vu experience, we can
Yeah.
already scale them easily.
Hmm.
But this was, of course, something we had never gone through before. So new things were about to come up. Like, for example, I would say I'm a very people oriented person. I work
Hmm.
best when I'm around people.
Nice.
And that's why when I'm studying in school, the library is always a place I go to. I'm looking for my closest colleague or classmate to go study with.
Nice. Yeah.
So if you put someone like me at home for months on end, it's literally the
Yeah.
equivalent of what do they call it? Solitary confinement in prison.
Yeah,
That's exactly
for
what it
sure,
felt
man.
like.
Hmm.
And I'm sure like the top say that people were in solitary confinement. Sometimes they start hallucinating. Sometimes they start having too frequent conversations with themselves. They can't think straight. They may lose their sense of identity, those
Yeah.
kinds of things.
Hmm.
And I would say that was a similar experience to what it was for me. That sometimes I would just completely lose motivation in doing anything. Sometimes, maybe to an extent, started hallucinating myself, where I almost try to imagine people being around and being like, oh, when I meet up with my friends again, what are some of the conversations I will have with them? And I started
Hmm.
having conversations with myself because it was just me alone most of the time.
Yeah.
And of course, that resulted in like extended periods of just sadness and low energy and everything. And of course, people around me were kind of worried because they know me that I'm not the kind of person to ever bring a sad energy to the table. I'm always the
Yeah.
type of person that would try to make you smile, even
Happy
if
go lucky.
my exactly, like even if I'm going through a rough patch. Just when I see that you're feeling bad as well, I completely throw my problems out the door and I try to help you out.
Wow, that's really
But
nice, man.
that's when people started feeling concerned. And to me, not trying to put it the way that, oh, I've never needed help before, but it kind of made me also feel bad that now my problems were being weighed on other people too as well. And I didn't want that to be the case. So
You
that's
don't like
why.
being burden on people, and you don't like,
Exactly.
yeah, you hate that responsibility of, oh, my emotions are making this person suffer right now or making them feel worse about themselves.
True.
But I can relate to what you were saying, man, is that, yeah, with this pandemic, a big thing for me is, that clouded vision, like when you're, especially as a creative, when you're trying to do something, like I was trying to write a script, And I just couldn't think of anything because I think psychologically your mind goes to the negative, goes to a place where it's like, well, what's going to happen? What does this all mean? What's it for? Who cares? And what it is that you struggle with that, and that's why with this film, it was such a great opportunity to look forward to. Being home for months on end and not knowing if this project would come to fruition, and the fact that we kind of band together and we said, no, this is the date, we're going to do it. And luckily for us, the situation wasn't as dire as it is now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's very no, I think it's very important. Like what you said is, even when you are going through stuff, that's really nice of what you said. Selfless is you don't bring it to other people, because I'm guilty of that. Like when I'm talking to people, sometimes I catch myself like talking about my problems, or I'll talk about situations. And people like, don't get me wrong, they can be supportive and they want to hear, but I just realized, and it may sound cynical or cruel, but people don't care at the end of the day. They got their own problems, right? You can only talk about them for so long, right? Like if I tell you what's going on in my life, right? Yeah, you'll listen, you'll be considerate, you'll give me advice. But if I repeat it for the next 5 days and that's all you hear from me, like you're gonna say, David, like you're gonna be like, Daniel, buddy, I got school to do, man. Like I gotta figure out, right? I gotta, you know what I mean? Like I don't have time for this. Because again, it's not to be selfish. It's just people are on their own, living their own world. Like they have their own responsibilities and they have their own problems. So
Facts.
um, I think it's just, yeah, a mature perspective. It's not cruel. It's just the way the world works, and you got to be. That's why I always say you got to invest in yourself. You got to have self care, because you got to be strong when no one else is around to help you. You can't rely on them to uplift you, right? You have to uplift yourself. People will support and give you some motivational pieces of advice. I know I have my fair share, but at the
Yeah,
same time, I think it's very important that you're strong enough to hold your own.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's pretty
So
much.
yeah, sorry. Go ahead, man.
No, I was saying like it's pretty much that. Like you said it pretty
hmm
well.
Thank you, man. Yeah. I it's just something I feel really passionate about. That's why I feel the need to just go on a rant about it and discuss it, because again, I was that kind of person where years ago I would be very reliant on a person's positive feedback, or just telling me I'm awesome. And then I realized, because I was in a situation where I lost some friends, I lost some situations, relationships, and it's like
Yeah.
all you have is yourself. And when they say that all you have is yourself, it's been never been more proven in the pandemic. And you have to confront those issues. No one else is going to do it for you, right?
Yes.
So I think it's very important, and that's why we did this film, Cracked, and we're so excited for the
Exactly.
world to see it. It's in festival circulation right now. But enough about that film. I want to know more about you now.
Okay.
So when I first met you, I initially thought you were just a film and television actor, right? And then I come across your social media page, and I've been following you recently, and I've
Yeah.
noticed that you also have talents as a musician. And I want to know, like, yeah, right? Like, why are you pursuing both acting and music?
Awesome. I would say a strong part of it even comes from that initial point as well, about just that line being blurred between both. Like all forms of art. That I would say
Right.
is one thing. Two, of course, I sometimes like to look at myself as an eclectic person. I can't really make up my mind on just one thing and
Mhm.
say I want to just do this alone. But at the same time, I'm trying to find that balance of not being just a jack of all trades, but a
Right.
master of none. It's
Mhm.
very, very, very rare, like you said, where you see somebody being a master of two art forms. Like when you see a
Mhm.
Will Smith winning a
Yeah.
Grammy as well as winning an Oscar, that
That's
kind
what
of
I
thing.
immediately thought of when I saw
Yeah.
heard actor musician, right?
True. So for me, I would say, let's quote Billie Eilish, for example. Billie
Mhm.
Eilish said that, of course, she puts a lot of focus and attention into her music and
Mhm.
sorting that part out, but she puts it on equal weight with her videos, for example.
Mhm.
I'm the kind of person that wants to almost be able to make a mesh between both, where if I wake up one day and in the future I want to do a lot of short films, for example. I know
Of
movies
course.
tend to take much longer. There's like a whole bigger process to
Of
the whole
course. Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I might eventually say I want to go into movies if I'm able to like block out time to say I want to do full length movies. But for the time being, short films are like the perfect avenue that I see myself being in. So with that as well, I want to have a space where visually I can also express my music in that, and it almost fits in perfectly into the storyline. And also in the same way, my expression through my acting, and even maybe sometimes the production can really express the music itself.
Okay.
Just like how sometimes, again, Quentin Tarantino says that he
Hey.
might pick the music beforehand and almost make the scene match up with the music. Whereas a lot of people would just kind of block out the whole scene and then just pick a song that aligns with it. I
Yeah.
wanted to be able to go back and forth between both. So, in summary, why I wanted to pursue both is because I think they bring each other to life very well.
Yeah.
And I feel that it would just be super beneficial for my means of expression to wield both at the same time.
Yeah, beautifully said because music is so important and so critical, and that's why I think we work so well together, and why we want to collaborate even more in the future. Because even when I was talking about 94 collection, I was explaining to you how I want to do like promos, like music videos or some sort of like dance videos, and um, just anything incorporated with music because it's just such a powerful medium, right? And it touches, it's universal. It touches, if you play the right song with the right visual, everyone will watch it. You don't need subtitles, you don't need a certain storyline, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's very important, and I think that's very smart that you're able to do both. And just seeing like what you've been posting on Instagram, like it's also important to say that you're aware of where you have to be talented in both areas, right? Or at least have a knowledge of the two, right? Like you're not doing it for the sake of doing it. You're not getting into music because, oh, it's just something to do. You do it because you clearly, have a passion for it, and you must have gotten some feedback where it's like, hey, I'm self-aware where I have something going here. And instead of just saying, but I only want to do acting, it's like, no, I want to do both because I think the two uh, play a part with each other. And you can never be more right. Like Billie Eilish, becoming more and more, you know, uh, kind of a fan of her music, and just seeing. I'm the kind of person where I like the overall aesthetic or the marketing behind it too. All right, so the music videos and how they're shot and how they serve the brand. Right, so you don't have to be so much into the music, but like Bad Guy, I was watching the music video behind that. Great beat. Lyrics, have no idea what's happening, but I have to probably like turn it up a little louder. But again, it's a mood, right? It's an ambiance, and it puts the art form on a different level. And I think
Exactly.
that's very important that, like you just said, you have the acting ability and you have the music behind it. And that's why with as a filmmaker, right, I can respect it so much because the cinematography perspective, you need that. If you want to tell a effective story. And yeah, like so far, your experience, how's it been trying to break through in the music industry? Are you like connecting with certain people and professionals, or are you just kind of doing this right now as a hobby?
Oh, great question. I would say kind of I'm want to lay out the blueprint, first of all, see exactly what it takes to reach a certain level, and then kind of then run in what I call a flow state in a way.
Mhm.
I've never really been a big believer, and this is why I'm not coming here preaching like as if I'm like a successful Grammy Award musician, but I like to be blunt about some things sometimes.
Sure.
I feel like pardon me, that was my laptop. The
No worries.
reason a lot of times I see a couple of my friends or just people I see around not doing as well as they want to in
Hmm.
music is because of consistency.
Mm.
Consistency and performing up to the right standard. And I like to say this that good is the enemy of great. Why do I say this? Somebody might come out with a song. They know how to produce music or mix a song or record some nice vocals. And you might have your good friend say, "Oh, this sounds good." Somebody else might say, "This sounds good." But there are many songs out there that sound good. It's like just reaching up to the baseline of
Right.
acceptable. When you reach that level, it's very easy to get comfortable there because you feel like, okay, well, I've passed that baseline. I can do better than what the average person can do. But this just means that now you've entered the playing field. It doesn't mean that you're actually thriving in the playing field. If you look at all the artists in maybe the Billboard Top 100, all 100 of them know how to make good music. Guaranteed. Like, that's not
Yeah. It's no
even a
question.
dispute.
Yeah. Yeah.
But why is it there somewhere in the top 10 and somewhere in the top bottom 10? Is that's when you're moving from the level of good to great. What are those niche things that separate you? What are the things outside the music that build your brand that cause a following to push your music? Those are the little things I'm still trying to learn. to see how I can then separate myself in those little aspects. Because I liken it to the Olympics. The difference between, let's say, the 100-meter finals, for example,
Right.
the difference between the first place finisher and the third place finisher is just a couple of what, like microseconds or something at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's a massive gap between them. Just those tiny differences make such a huge difference.
Even like a Formula One race, right? It's just like two
Exactly.
seconds is like 20 minutes in that world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what exactly it feels like. Now, in terms of where I am right now, I wanted to really sharpen up my skills in the different areas, kind of set a baseline. If I'm giving like actual core details, let's say in terms of production, being a vocalist as well as mixing music. I
Right.
started off producing my own kind of songs. I wanted to see what kind of songs do I know how to produce. I mostly make hip hop, R&B, and Afro beats. That's
Okay.
what I've been producing. As a vocalist, I could have just gone in and said, "Well, I can sing my notes properly. Let me let the mixing and post production fix up the rest." But my sister advised me to learn actually the traditional way of singing, like learn how to properly sing, so that
Mhm.
when I'm doing live performances, it's just going to set me apart completely. So that's another aspect I'm working on. When it comes to mixing music, I'm trying to build a portfolio for that because I know that's what really works very strongly. In terms of mixing music, it's just like editing videos, for example. Most people know the fundamentals in terms of how to use the software, how to play around with the different tools. It's when you have the experience from different projects knowing that, well, I can make my color grading for this particular scene blue, but what shade of blue should I use that would evoke the right emotion? That's where
Mm. Like the
experience
palette,
starts to come in. Exactly,
the
knowing the
palette we
right.
call it. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's exactly the same thing in like mixing. What do I make these decisions? I'm trying to build up that experience too, so that when I've gotten the fundamentals down, I can then say, okay, for the next year or for the next two, I'm reducing my, let's say, things on my plate as much as possible. And I'm just going to go consistently, literally go ham, and then just kind of accelerates that progress over the next 2, 3, 4 years or so, however long it takes, till I can now reach a baseline where I'm now competitive in the industry that I'm looking to be in, and then kind
Mm.
of now maintain steady growth from there. So that's the way I see it right now.
So you're saying is you're kind of learning the craft, learning the skills, and honing them without just throwing things out, like out of just for the sake of throwing them out there.
Yeah,
Is that what you're saying? Like you're being very meticulous and making sure everything represents your brand in a specific way.
yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Because I think that's what a lot of artists, creatives, they struggle with is, how do you that consistency, like you just said, is you see it all the time with artists, and that's a big worry for me. Like they put out a song and it's like, can you match it again? Right.
Yeah,
And a lot of them, they prove us wrong, but there are some that they kind of disappear. And you don't really like, Iggy Azalea. Like for me, I never really heard a song. um I can't remember the name of it, but it was really popular. Really, even the music video where she was wearing like a yellow outfit. It was a spoof
um
off Clueless.
oh wait,
First,
it's like an
thing, I'm
old
the
song.
realist. It goes like first thing,
Yeah.
I'm the realist.
Oh, is
I
it
don't know
I'm
how. I
so
don't know. What to,
fancy?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Fancy yourself.
I
Yeah. But for
remember.
me, like that's like an example, right? Not to shit on her or anything, but it's just like what comes to mind is like, oh, I haven't really seen. And again, she could be focusing on a different path in her life and another career in the arts, but in the context of music, you kind of hear that, and you can't really predict those things either. Like you just sometimes you got to just put it stuff out there, and sometimes they just stick and they work with the audience, right? Like the market will tell you if it's good. um, and if you're consistent, then that's why you have the Drakes and the
Yeah.
the Eminems and all these different artists, because they stand the test of time, right? They prove their worth. And I wanted to go back to what you were saying about the billboards and the chart positioning and all that. What what's your take on, because we're both, millennials, like what's your take on social media and viewership, and does it affect you? Is there really a big issue with looking at views? Because I know recently with me, I'm very grateful and supportive, like happy that I have fans like yourself, showing, seeing my work, sharing it. But at the same
Yeah.
time, as an artist, you always say to yourself, like, it'd be nice to have a little bit more, like people watching it, right? Like instead of 4 views, like 40
Yeah.
views or 400, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what's your take on that? Like, do you give into that pressure, or you just kind of like take it easy and stay true to the craft?
Mm. I always feel like, yeah, it's just something that I've debated myself a lot. I would say that it should strongly be a balance between both, where you shouldn't, of course, ignore it completely, but at the same time, you shouldn't get caught up with it. How
Mhm.
does that look like practically? I know that people always say have the balance, but it's
Right.
very difficult to maintain that. How I look at it myself is I want to have a means of tracking my progress at least.
Hmm.
Like I don't just want to be that person who will say, yeah, I'm just focused on the craft alone. As long as I'm making good music that I like myself, I'm good. I don't really care whether I'm getting views or anything. I'm
Hmm.
like, well, technically speaking, you should care to an extent if you're looking to compete on a professional level,
Of course.
because I can't just come and make a film and say, well, this film is fantastic. The writing was great, the acting was fantastic, production, everything was good, but the viewership, commercially, the film didn't do well at all. I'm not
Hmm.
going to get funding at all for those kind of things for maybe my next film that I want to do. It's not going to provide the kind of revenue that I'm doing because ultimately the financial aspect of it has to come into play if
Of
maybe
course.
this is your source of bread and butter, if this is literally what
Yeah.
you live off of.
Yeah. Or
You
you
need to
intended
take
at least, right?
exactly.
At
You
the
need
very
to
least.
take
Yeah.
those unless you're just doing it as a hobby on the side or you don't care about the commercial aspect of it, then that's when you could say, like
Yeah.
I could make great cooking, but I don't care if my cooking sells because I'm not planning on selling my food. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That's a
that's
good
exactly how I
analogy.
see
Yeah.
it. But at the same time, it shouldn't be something yeah, it shouldn't be something that you get too caught up in where you then almost sacrifice strongly your artistic expression
Mhm.
just because you're trying to just go with the commercial aspect of it.
Of course.
And that's where I would say, as much as you can, maybe even delegate that aspect to other people, where you can say, like, okay, what do you still think about my videos? Do you think maybe somebody who was knowing you from the start, do you think that I'm derating off my initial vision too much just to kind of please that commercial aspect of my art? Or am I still being consistent, but at the same time being very conscious of being flexible so that my work is still commercially valuable? So
Yeah.
that's where the aspect of having people in your inner circle who can critique your work very well is very important.
Yeah, I think it's important to have both people in your field and also outside of your field as well, because you can see a balance. You can see people from an industry perspective, like what they think, and you can also see the market, what they think, right? And a lot of the times, there's two different perspectives. For me, when I show my films, like people in the industry will compliment it or they'll judge it on certain technical aspects, and then people outside of the field, like family, friends, the market, if you will be more amazed about like how it was made and like the music choices and like just the overall emotion that was given. So you just learn those things and you have to have that balance. I think a big thing for me is self-awareness and exhausting all options. Like for instance, you have to be aware for that the film that you made probably didn't have the most production value in it or the biggest budget, but did you exhaust all options that you could with what you had, and did you make the story as effective as you could, right? Like at the end of the day, the reason why it's so tricky is that like the arts is just a crazy profession and anyone pursuing it, including myself, right? It's just like who would want to pursue an industry that's not guaranteed? But
Yeah,
that's the reality is if you think about it, your salary or your income is based off of people clicking with that piece of art. And how do you define a good piece of art, right?
yeah,
Obviously, you can make it to the best thing that you can. And like you said, I feel your tactics are were well stated. You gotta, if you can improve, right? Or if there's like a muffled piece of dialogue in a film, or if there's things that aren't working, poor score or poor acting, you have to adjust those things in order to get to the top.
yeah,
But if you feel like this is the best person to play the role, or this is the best piece of music to tell that scene, what it comes down to is the market will decide. And
true.
you can't, what I mean? Like with film like Cracked, right? Like I'm thinking to myself, you know, obviously I believe in it. I believe in the people that were involved, and I believe in the subject matter, right? The mental health. But who's to say that, you know, the timing, right? Like the people that are watching it, maybe they don't aren't too sensitive about that topic, right? Or maybe they, you know, can't relate because they don't know anyone in their lives that, has a mental illness, right?
Yeah,
Um, yeah, you can pull it apart, like if they were to say, how it was made, but in terms of the actual story, it's subjective. Everyone's going to have an opinion about it, right? And I think what I'm trying to get at is when I showed it to people that didn't have any um, effects of mental health, or they never really struggled with that, maybe because they were too young or just were lucky in life, I guess, with how things panned out. They viewed it very differently than someone that had mental illness,
Yeah,
to the point where like they actually were getting emotional at some scenes because they could relate to those dramatic moments.
yeah,
And yeah, it just goes back to like who's watching it and how they're watching it, and it's about timing and just pretty much having everything aligned. I know I'm talking and referring, probably alluding to luck,
yeah.
but there is a little bit of, I believe, luck sprinkled in on that. What's your take on that? Do you believe in this industry you need a little bit of luck to push you forward?
Yeah, I would say is very necessary. Even me on a small scale that I haven't even really got it anywhere close to like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have experienced luck in some aspects where
Of course.
you can't really predict how some things will perform.
Hmm.
Like if I was to tell you maybe for one of my songs that gets so and so number of streams, how did this happen? I can probably mention some things that maybe influenced it. Maybe I could say I thought it was a good song. Maybe it was the hook of the song that people tended to like, or but in terms of marketing, I can't really put my finger and say this is what made it get this amount of viewership or whatever. And you just can't control some things. And it's also very similar. You can hear it in many artist stories upcoming. Everybody will have those moments, and you just need to be prepared at the right time. Like,
Yeah.
for example, me being a part of this film,
Hmm.
it was just as a result of me knowing Kosa, who was one of the people working on it. That could just be
Exactly.
an opportunity where, oh, he was working on something. I happen to know him. He happened to remember me. I ended up auditioning for it at the right time. And this just happened. So
Yeah.
many things happen on a thin line. And I would just say, be mindful of when such opportunities may come and just make sure you're prepared for
Hmm.
when it does happen. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was well said, because again, that I can relate to as well, right? Is, you having those opportunities, like coming on as Cracked as a director, it just gave me, that confidence to take it on to the next project. And or if I get hired for a project where I need to direct or I need to shoot something, I'll have that preparedness, to make it worthwhile, right? And you could say the same for yourself. And I think it's like you just said, it's very important. Like, luck is not about just sitting back and saying, "Oh, everyone's lucky and not me." Luck is, doing the right things at the right time. And, as you said, Kosa, someone that you knew, friend, reached out to you and said, "Hey, we're doing this project. Are you interested?" Because you're always preparing yourself by whether it's auditions, acting school, voicing to people that you're in the field.
Yeah.
And, that's something that, even with yourself about fashion, right? That's why I asked you for the 94 collection, is, that you were talking about, even I know you had a sense of style, but even just like you voicing like you loved Tarantino, you love streetwear, and you love this and that. I said, let's go, let's keep going, and offer these people these opportunities, because I think that's what that's all about. So yeah, I guess we could describe ourselves as very lucky, having met each other, like sharing the same views, sharing the same talents, the same vision for our brands. So
Yeah.
I think that's what luck is all about, because you can't really pinpoint it. You can't really pinpoint sometimes why a video goes viral. I
Yes.
strongly and firmly believe, and I'll say this to you too, you probably already know this, is just do your music, do your acting with good intentions, and stay true to who you are with it. Improve it from a quality perspective if you can. But
Yes.
if you really love R&B, right? If you really love hip hop, don't decide to do country because Lil Nas X is doing it. You know what I mean? Like, don't switch it, because
Yeah.
that's the thing. That's what I'm referring to when I say authenticity, good intentions, right?
Yeah.
Because your audience will find you, man. I truly believe that.
Yes.
So I want to get back to the year 2020,
Okay.
and like I said, it hit many of us differently. Did the pandemic allow you to explore more of your creativity when it
Yeah.
hit?
Yes. I would say in terms of helping me reset, that was a big one. Like if
Yeah.
I was to be specific, I noticed that I tend to be very vague when I'm describing something. So
Hmm.
let me be very specific. When it comes to music, like I had a song that I wanted to release sometime around May, and of course, we I was still in school then. School got shut down physically around March, so we just passed the 1 year anniversary not too long ago,
Yeah,
which
it's
is
crazy.
mind
Yeah,
blowing.
time flies, man. Time flies.
Yeah. Well, that was crazy. And then it helped me, it gave me some extra time since I wasn't moving around so much to actually finish up that song and put that out. But it also gave me time to almost just pause at some points. I spoke about the negative side of that too, this is now more on the positive side. What were the positive things that came out of just pausing and being alone? Being alone, of course, allowed me to see what I really liked again, what I wanted to talk about. Because going and interacting with many people, you hear thousands of things every single day.
Yeah,
And sometimes it might be hard to actually pick out the one that originally came from you, the original idea or the original thought.
of
And
course.
what you think you might want for yourself might just be what you heard 50 people say that you should do. So that was almost a trap I kept falling into. But now it was just myself alone, and I could see what I wanted to make music wise. That's why I came out with an EP sometime towards the end of the summer, like August, which I then released. That I never planned to do because I had two other projects I was doing simultaneously. I wouldn't say I scrapped them. I put them to the back burner and started afresh with a new one that
Hmm.
was more recent, more fresh in my ideas, and then I put that out instead. So, in summary, as well as also doing videos with that as well, with the music associated too. That was something I had never done as much before. And I said, well, I have more time on my hands to really sit down and write out a plan for this, write out a script or block out this whole thing. And then let me start producing content from this. So, in summary, it helped me to pause and see what I really wanted to do.
I absolutely love what you just said.
Yeah.
I know I'm saying this a lot because I really do agree with a lot of your ideas and your values, because what you just said about the pandemic allowing you to slow down and reset. I often say to my friends, I might be one of those few people that says 2020 saved my life because it really allowed me to, right? It allowed, I think, a lot of creatives like yourself to slow down and figure out, you said it beautifully, where people were commenting and judging and saying, what you should do, what you should do next. And you didn't have any focus, right? And that's
Yeah.
what prevented you from creating. And with the pandemic, it forced everybody to slow down and be on the same playing field.
Yeah.
And I think it just took away that judgment, that stripped away that feeling of, I'm not going to be good enough, or I'm not going to create something that I really enjoy. So, I can highly relate to what you just said. And I wanted to say, what did you hope to accomplish? Like, did you accomplish all the things you wanted to in 2020, or did the pandemic hold you back?
Mm. The one thing well, like say is one thing I wasn't able to do. I always like to do photo shoots as well. This is now
Okay.
more on still photography. I wasn't able to do that as much, of course,
Okay.
because every photographer friend or contact that I knew, they're like, "Oh yeah, I can't go out. Oh, I can't travel. I can't do this and that." I'm like, "Okay, what's gonna happen? Do I have to start taking my photos myself?" And
Including me. I was one of those
yeah,
guys that told you straight up. I'm like,
yeah.
when things get better, poor David was all ready to go.
I was excited, like I was
Yeah.
ready. My mind was there, but
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
That I'll say is one thing. Two, I would say I can't really blame myself for this though, but
Hmm.
this was more just in terms of productivity. I did say I was able to release some projects, but I wanted to release maybe double the amount that I actually did,
Mm.
given the time that I had to work with. But again, why I would say I didn't blame myself was because I mentioned the negative side of what the pandemic really brought forward
Yeah.
to that slowed it down in that aspect. But I can't really, yeah, again, I won't beat myself up over that. That's in the past. Let me focus on the future now and what I can do at that time. Yeah,
Yeah. No,
that's
it's
what.
it's like, you know, I'm the same way, where I wanted, of course, you want to do even more, right? The big thing. I know I bring up 94 collection a lot, but that was the big thing for me. Is I started this clothing line. I'm wearing this pink hoodie here,
Yeah,
and I wanted to have people like yourself like be involved, and your sister even was, you said, expressed interest. So just having a photo shoot and getting content out there, but pandemic hit. And what the big thing with me is, like, and what you just said is, you got to compare yourself with yesterday, and you got to compare yourself with, like, how much you're putting out. Again, we always want to be, that's human beings, we always want to put out more than what we can chew. But the reality is like, how much can we actually do? Because there's a lot of factors involved. We're not black and white. It's not like we're just a machine where, we absorb information and then we put it out,
yeah,
absorb, put it
sure.
out. There's days, right? I'm sure you've had your days, right, where you don't want to do it, or you just don't feel as motivated, or life gets in the way. Sister needs to be dropped off at a dentist appointment, and you got to take like half the day to do that. Let's say, I don't know, just throwing out possible factors, or you got to take care of your mom, or someone in your family's not doing well, or just, you got appointments yourself that you got to figure out. Life just happens, as I say.
School
But
as
I
well.
think exactly. Oh, and school. Yeah. What am I? I've been so I've been out of school for so long. I forgot school is a huge, huge, huge difference. Yeah, for sure, man. And you've been in school, and that's why I should tell you is that the fact that you put out the stuff that you did, you were in a short film, and you still did school. Commend yourself for that, man. It's
Thank you. Thank you.
when I was in school, man, when I was in university, I was just in part of one student group. I was director of marketing. That was it. And we did work, but it was just confined to the school. You know what I mean? Like when I went home, I didn't really do what you guys were doing,
Mm.
music and short films, and what definitely not what I'm doing now, vlogs and podcasts. That was only till years later because I wasn't into it. I wasn't really, my mind wasn't there.
Mm.
And that's why I praise people like yourself is, you're so young and you're doing all the things that, I could say easily, I wish I was doing that. I wish I was like doing this podcast 5 years ago, 6 years ago, but can I really say that? It's like saying, I wish I picked those lottery numbers. It's like, of course you're going to pick those lottery numbers now because you know what the lottery numbers are.
Yes.
But 6 years ago, 7 years, whatever have you, 5 years ago when I was in university, I knew nothing about podcasts, and I didn't even have nowhere near any guests that I could bring on the platform to discuss ideas or anything of that matter. I could bring on like two friends of mine, and that was it. But but
Yeah.
that's just but I'm happy how things worked out, and you got to just, I think, be grateful of the journey. Is that an approach you have, being grateful?
Yeah, I think an attitude of gratitude really it makes everything much better
I like that
because,
attitude
like
of
you said,
gratitude.
I know so long as I keep on worrying or anyone keeps on worrying about what they didn't do in the past, it's going to always be I'll say, an everlasting feeling. You never get over it. And speaking to my grandma really helped solidify that for myself whenever I talk to her because like she's old. She's like what 85 or 86 or something,
Bro, I'll
almost
one up you
90.
right now.
Yeah.
I'll one up you. I have two grandparents. One's 95 and one's 93.
Oh man. Yeah, okay, you have
Yeah.
it. You have the
But I
award
know,
for that.
but hey, that
Yeah.
that not to downplay that. That's definitely an older age, and God bless them.
Yeah. Of course I'm very glad that she's still alive,
Of
definitely.
course.
Very great part of my life. And I would say more or less just in terms of giving that perspective. And I can't even contest because she's like what, quadruple my age or something. I don't even know. She's basically saying that whole progress that see if you keep on worrying about what you didn't do yesterday, it's gonna continue eating you up until
Yeah.
now. That's why she never comes to tell us, oh, I wish when I was 50, I was doing this, or when I was 20 something or so. She just says, yeah, you guys are doing great every time. That she's just grateful to still see us as her grandchildren till today, to see her own children doing well. And she's just always being grateful for the now and what's to come in the future. I never hear her speak about what she didn't do in the past. And just those little things help me to also shape my perspective as a young person.
Yep.
Because, of course, me is just energy, burst. I want to do everything that's out there in front of me, conquer the whole world. But I always need to think, just like you said, that I'm not a machine. Of
Yep.
course, not everything is just black and white. There's some things that will get done, and I'm confident that some things will get done, and some things just wouldn't. And that's just how life goes. Just be grateful for what happened and receive fulfillment from that.
Yeah, no, I just when you were mentioning about your grandmother and her age and the fact that she has such a healthy attitude, because I know a lot of people her age that they regret the past and they talk bad about their experiences, and the fact that they wish they could have done more and they could have done it right. But she sounds like she's accepted her old age, and she's accepted, she lived a long life, and she's proud of whatever she has accomplished, and she's grateful to see her grandchildren prosper and witness their successes. And I think that's so beautiful to hear that.
Yeah,
And it's just so nice to have someone of that age too, man, like so wise, and
true.
just to give you that recognition, like it's going to be okay. Because again, man, we feel like, I'm 26. How old are you, man?
Oh, 20.
20. Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
6 years gap. But when I was 20, I felt like, I remember people were telling me, like, and you probably get this too, like, oh, you're old now, you're fucking,
Yeah.
getting old, whatever. And it's like, you laugh like your head off, because it's like, well, what does that 85-year-old have to say? Like, what is she,
Yeah.
ancient? Like they slap us, bro. Like they'll be like, yo, we're old. You know what I mean? Like, you better stop talking like that. Because
Exactly.
sometimes I joke around with my grandparents, like, oh, I'm 26, getting old. And they're like, no, 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 because they're Italian, right? So they'll say something in Italian to me, and I just got to be like, okay. but it's true, man. They laugh, and when we're that age, right? God willing, God bless.
Yeah,
Um, we'll have that same mindset. We'll look back and be like, 20? Are you kidding me? Like people used to be calling us old. Like what? I wish I was 20. You know, I think your 20s are your stomping ground. Like it's the best time to like make a mess, get in there, get your hands dirty, and take the risks. Build your craft now. And I think what you're doing is really important, really exceptional. A lot of 20-year-olds that I know, like they're not doing anything on the side. They're just going to school, going home, going to work. That's it. But I think it's important that you keep building your craft, right, and keep building that brand. It's going to pay off. And on that note, before like we go, I want to know, what do you hope to accomplish as an actor and musician, man?
mm. Let me give a very tactical answer so that I can
No
refer
pressure,
back
no
to this.
pressure. Just speak from the heart. It's always best, bro.
All right, from there, what do I
Yeah.
really want to accomplish in terms of acting and movies? Of course, I would like to explore a very, very wide range, things that I've never really, I wouldn't do naturally, things outside of my personality range.
Right.
So if maybe I was to do something that required like very deep emotions, not saying that I'm not a deeply emotional person, but expressing that physically or outwardly, the easiest expression I like to give is, of course, Will Smith again. Him doing comedy to start off, going from music to comedy, and that's what people knew him for in Fresh Prince. And then going to do other movies like Pursuit of Happiness that just completely outside of that.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing I want to do so that I could, yes, I push myself out of my comfort zone. And I wanted to make movies that where the attention to detail, I'm that kind of person. The attention to detail was very heavy because
Mhm.
every time I watch a Tarantino film, I'm going on YouTube right after to go watch analysis of how did he block this scene. Like in Inglorious Bastards, you remember that initial scene with what's his name, where
The
that
French
captain went to go interrogate
Hans
that guy.
Landa, yeah, and he
Yeah,
goes to the French farm. Yeah, yeah,
Hans Landa. Yeah,
yeah. That's
probably
a sick
watched
scene, right?
analysis of that scene like so many times. How
Studio
they
Binder, is that Studio Binder? I know they do that
I know. I
analysis.
think that was one of, yeah.
Yeah,
Studio
yeah,
Finder was
yeah.
one of them.
I
How
love
they
it.
blocked out. So I really
Love it.
love when attention to detail is paid in films, and I would like to
Hmm.
be a part of films that pay so much attention to detail, so I can look back and just say, "Wow, like
The
this is one of
rewatchability,
my."
the
Yes.
rewatchability aspect. That's something that I was always fighting for, like with Cracked or in my projects. Is I always remind people, the best ones are the ones you can sit down again and rewatch them and pick out something different, or learn
Exactly.
something different about a character, or maybe see it from a different perspective. That's a big thing with
Yes.
regards to the Rocky movies, like how I watched them at 25 versus 15. Yeah,
Exactly.
they could be corny at some times. I think the first one is well done, but the other ones can be corny at some times. But you at least respect the story because you're a more mature audience member, right?
Exactly. And it just shapes your view of all of that. And still on that film aspect, strongly revolutionized. Now, this is more specific to me. The music, not music, sorry, the film industry in Africa as a whole, especially in Nigeria.
Mm.
Have you heard of Nollywood before?
Yeah, that's yeah,
Mm,
something that Koso was actually telling me about.
yeah, I would like
Yeah.
to really play a huge role in that because I know there's a lot of potential and great stories to be told, but a lot of the time it's just the production is not up to par with from an international standard and
Right,
perspective.
right.
And I would like to be one of those people who can make an influence and say, let's bring out the stories and let's actually show this to the world because you can do better in terms of producing this and bringing it to life.
Like
So
use your
that's
celebrity, use your establishment in the industry
exactly,
to, yeah. I can relate to that, man, for sure.
yeah, it really helped, my roots and all of that. And in terms of music, what I like to do in music is now more or less bringing my own culture to a North American audience. That's always been my vision.
Hmm.
Where, do you know what this artist, Burna Boy?
Sounds familiar, actually.
Yeah, you might have
Bunny
you
Boy,
heard
Bunny
of
Boy. Do you see Bunny Boy or no? Or Brenna
Burna
Boy?
Boy. Yeah.
Brenna Boy. Yeah, it sounds very familiar, actually.
In the next like maybe 1 or 2 years, you hear him a whole lot more now because he
Oh, is
just
he gonna
one of
blow up?
yeah, he's already blown up in Africa and Europe,
Oh,
but
okay.
because African music is still about to take North America by storm, if I was to put it that way.
Right, right. It still has
Like
to go mainstream, you're
yeah,
saying.
and
Yeah.
he won a Grammy in the most recent Grammy Awards
Oh,
actually for his
wow.
album.
That's
So that was
amazing.
like a big open door for
Yeah.
like Africans to really step into the mainstream in North America. Because I know like the Latin music industry and of course European musicians already do that. You can already see them in the mainstream, but I want to be that person who can bring African music into the mainstream in North America. That's probably my vision in terms of that.
But it's an honor, like to be represented on that scale. Like for me, I'm Italian, and obviously there's been Italian films and directors and things like that. But I still get all excited when I see, just someone commenting on Italian culture or a story based on the Italian way of life. So for you, uh, it must be amazing, like to be reminded that anyone can really make it. You know what I mean, man? Anyone,
Exactly.
yeah,
Totally. I have a question though. Like,
yeah. What's
I
up, man?
heard, I know whenever I'm watching soccer, I always see like my friends always used to mention this, like the Italian players always had a great sense of style. Would you
Hmm.
say that that has had a huge influence on you?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't watch soccer probably as much as my friends do, like the football clubs. When the Euro and the World Cup comes around, I do support the national team. Like I just something about the energy watching those tournaments. But I do know what you're talking about with regards to the style. I
Yeah.
think it's not so much the soccer player's style. I think it's just how I was raised, like with my mom, and
Nice.
just putting such a importance on having that sense of how you're presented to people, and being clean, being organized, having good manners. And I've always there's a lot of influences on my style, to my very roots, like starting with my family, but it's also like what I see. Like recently I've been following like Justin Bieber's like Drew House, and I just like kind of like the whole streetwear look. That's guy, I guess, I'm wearing a pink hoodie. And I think that's what gave me a bit of the, because I would never be the kind of guy to wear a pink hoodie.
Yeah.
But when I was styling, I was doing 94 collection. That's why, if you go on the Instagram, the 94 collection or
Yes.
94 collection, you'll see unisex clothing in the bio. Cause I realized like that's what I want people to see it as. I don't want it to be like, okay, here's women's and here's men's. It's more like streetwear. The way I see it is anyone can wear it, girls and guys, and there's an appeal to it. There's something attractive to it that anyone can rock the styles. And my vision for it is to do group shots, right? That's why I always tell you, like, when things get better, get people, your friends, whatever. I'll just bring all the hoodies in a huge luggage. And I always like those, you know what I mean, those like 10-15 people shots, like where everyone's wearing the hoodie, or like even 5 people and they're just posing a certain way. So there's a lot of influences with regards to style. And more recently, I've found a style that works for me. I really enjoy streetwear because I'm just comfortable in it, and that's how I want to be seen. A friend of mine, we were discussing on the podcast, like about him wearing a suit, and that's how he wants to be seen. Like he's getting older, right? He's 27, I think a year older than me, or my age, and he wants to be seen like very mature, very professional. But for myself, it's like I kind of want to give the casual approach and just show that I'm an artistic person inside and out, and this is like who I am. Like I don't want to show up in a suit, and have a conversation with you in a suit, because that's not my vibe, right?
Yeah.
Like I follow these other guys, these musicians, and they're called Crash Adams, and they wear a suit. It's alternative like music, like 102.1, The Edge kind of style,
Yeah.
and but that's their thing. They all wear suits, and I dig that. Like it's not suits in the sense like they're lawyers, they're accountants. You know what I'm talking about? Like they're spiffy. It's more like a casual kind of like fitted, you know what I mean? Kind
Yeah.
of suit with the skinny tie and stuff. So
Okay.
it's a more relaxed approach. And I don't know. I think that style, what I'm trying to get at, is plays into what your brand or what you're trying to represent. And that's why when I just started this brand of my own, I made sure that it was about streetwear and having like a casual, relaxed fit. Would you say you have the same sort of style? Because I with the bucket hat, like I just immediately thought, I'm like, this guy's like got the zipped up sweater,
Yeah.
right? You have streetwear vibes too.
Yeah, I would say easy. Like for me, if I was to just summarize one thing I've always liked, of course, is comfort. I always put it that way. Comfort is a very big theme when it comes to how I dress, and I'm a big fan of shorts, of course. Now,
Mm.
of course, Toronto or Canada doesn't really like to agree with that as much because it's cold most of the time. So
It's the worst, bro.
I
It's the
don't I don't
worst.
have that privilege. But of course, during this time of the pandemic that I was at home, this was the first time that I felt very comfortable because at home I can wear shorts all day. I
Right.
don't have to worry about going out. So 90% or 95% of the time I was in shorts. And that's just a common thing I've always been known by all my friends. But if I was to summarize it, I would say simple, casual, simple, comfortable dressing that,
Mm.
of course, really expresses what you want to go with. So, like, I usually wouldn't go with like wearing very complex colors or like very complex combinations
Yeah.
because to me, it's very difficult for me to process it in my head. So,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like
yeah. No,
this,
for sure, man.
like exactly what you're wearing, literally just like a simple pink hoodie. I'm not the kind of person that wear pink and maybe have like a blue stripe at the back and like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
at the
yeah.
bottom. It's just too complex for me. Too many things going
Or like
on.
Billie Eilish, she wears like for me, like I get the style, but there's just so much going on where it's like I just like I don't need like five hoodies and like two different color socks and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like just that's obviously her expression. That's her iconic look. But yeah, it's like a pink hoodie and like I'll even put black pants, not to even offset it because I want everyone to
Yeah,
draw to the pink hoodie, like and Vans. Yeah. So it's like
exactly.
stylish, but
Something
at
that's
the same time, it's nothing like groundbreaking. It's just
true.
expression of you, right?
And that's exactly just how I roll.
Nice, man. Well, it was a pleasure having a conversation with you, like always, man. And I intend to have you more, show up on the podcast, discussing your journey,
Of course.
hearing more about, projects that you've created. And we'll, definitely keep the audience informed about Cracked. Like I said, it's in festival circulation. We're excited to hear back and for, the audience to see what it's all about.
Nice.
So yeah, thank you again, man, for joining the podcast. Do you have anything else you have to say before we end off?
To everyone listening, don't worry. Just keep loving yourself. Keep being blessed as always. And of course, say hi to somebody today. You don't know who might need it at any point in time. So just go out there and do your thing.
Love it. Gratitude is the attitude.
Oh, yeah. Attitude of gratitude.
Attitude of gratitude. I love it. Either way, be grateful.
Exactly.
All right, man.
Important.
Yeah. So thank you again and take care, guys.